All right, we are live. Woohoo! Welcome everybody to Supermom Sessions with the Kick-Ass Modern Mom podcast. And today is episode 10, and I'm so excited to speak with Megan Moser. She is a new friend of mine, but oh my gosh, we hit it off right off the bat because we just speak the same language of all the things that she's going to talk to you guys about. So let me read a quick bio. And Megan, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Woohoo! Megan is the founder and owner of Visionary Experiences. She is a multi-business owner, wife to a functional medicine doctor, and mom to a 3 and 5-year-old. Her passions are traveling and connecting with locals, reading juicy novels, and being of service. After years of trying to feel seen and heard, even by those closest to her, she had her grand aha wake-up moment while pregnant with her second child. That is where her journey to building visionary experiences began. After exploring a variety of natural healing modalities, she felt most aligned and empowered through Kambo, which I can't wait for her to tell you guys about. Sound healing, somatic breathwork, and mentorship. She now serves these modalities nationwide, empowering others, especially mothers, to reclaim their voice and step back into their true passion and purpose in life. Yay! So that's like the grand view little bio. But Megan, tell us a little bit more about yourself, where you live, what your kids are into, like where you met your husband, just kind of like a little backstory so that we can all become BFFs with you.
Yes, I love this. And first, I have to kind of give a disclaimer that I am a storyteller. Like, I love to talk. And so when people are like, narrate it and break it down, I'm like, this is so hard. But
That's my favorite. I love ramblers. You speak my language.
right? So currently we reside in Peoria, Arizona. However, I have literally been everywhere. I was born and raised in Maine, kind of all over Maine, honestly. And then when I was 20, just about to be 21, I went through my rebellious, like, I got to get out of here. I can't talk to my family, all of the things. And I moved to Houston and I became a international flight attendant for a few years. And in that process, I happened to run into my husband. Actually, he literally almost ran me over with his car at the gym, and then we fell in love.
I love it.
He had this annoying little like blue sports car that he like sped into the gym, and I was crossing the street on the phone. And like a
Love
month
it.
later, he apologized. But so we met in Houston, and he was working for a chiropractor at the time. He's a chiropractor himself, and we kind of, it was just one of those things, like it was this wild dynamic relationship where I had never been in anything like that. I was very much in my like, if you wanted me stage, I wanted nothing to do with you, and then I loved you if you wanted nothing to do with me. So it was weird to be in this dynamic. And so we just honestly grew, and about 6 months in, I just knew like flying wasn't for me anymore. This was my new path, and it was stronger than what I was doing. So yeah, so he had been talking about wanting to open his own practice for since literally the day, we met each other. And I looked at him one day and was like, why? Why are we like waiting and putting this off? And I think I've always had very much like I have never been a 9 to 5er. That's why being a flight attendant worked for me because it was all over the board, right? And he very much was in this like structured work and grind, and we had kind of a different mentality there. But I always had this like entrepreneurial spirit, and I don't think he so much did, or at least it hadn't been ignited yet. And so we talked, and I basically was like, we're going to make this happen. And he's from Pittsburgh. So we ended up moving to Pittsburgh. We had just bought a house less than a year before. And we ended up moving to Pittsburgh with literally no money. We were newly engaged. We lived in my in-laws' basement, and we were walking up and down the streets of Pittsburgh trying to find a location for this business. And it all worked out beautifully because we ended up not only just doing chiropractic, but he was able to incorporate functional medicine. And so we worked really hard on building this business and really creating something that we're super proud of, right? And so that was kind of like my first entry into business. And so we let that blossom. And then I ended up getting pregnant with my son about 6 months after we got married. And, we had my little guy. I actually had 2 home births, which was probably like the most empowering thing I've ever accomplished. It was wild. And my husband in the moment was laughing because he said I reminded him of those, like the Polynesian culture where they're like the,
Yeah.
He's like, you transformed in that moment. Something fierce comes out, right? And it was wild because, and we can get into that later, but I have been
Mm-hmm.
told that I would not be able to do that. And I was literally 36 weeks pregnant, and I had this doctor. So I'd had a surgery like 5 or 6 years prior, and they had taken out a fibroid tumor that was benign and everything was fine. And they hadn't ruined or messed with anything down there. However, I was 36, 37 weeks pregnant, and this doctor calls me out of the blue and is like, you need to get a C-section right now. Your uterus is going to explode. This is crazy. You're going to kill yourself. And I had already had my heart set on being able to do this. And so, of course, I'm having like a mental breakdown a little bit, but I ended up doing it. And I was so proud of myself because in that moment, for the first time in my life, it was solely my choice. And I was solely like, I felt so empowered, right? Because I knew I trusted the very few people I actually let in to give me opinions and voice their support. I had backup plans. It was wild. But even though I had that, and even though I went through with it, I still didn't feel like I had a voice. I still very much let people tell me how to think and how to be and how to parent, how to show up and how to business and all of the things, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so fast forward when I get pregnant with my daughter, I think the catapult there, I know the catapult there was my family personally was very much one of the people, the groups of people in my life that were very opinionated, did not want to listen, did not support you, but very much you have to do as I say, even though I'm a 30-something-year-old woman or about to go round 2 with giving birth. And so we went to Maine, and there was just this massive blowout that it was unfortunate how it happened. However, I truly believe it was something divine that needed to happen in that moment, because that was the catapult for me to finally go back home and set boundaries like I've never set before, to be very solid in my voice, to be very solid in who I was letting into my space and how that was going to look. And that did result in me cutting out my parents up until recent, honestly. And they never met their granddaughter until this year. But at the same time, the second I made that decision, I had one of the most connected pregnancies, one of the most connected home births that I've ever had. Our business, when I tell you, it catapulted. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it was honestly like this thread had been just like holding us down. And as soon as I cut that anchor, everything in our life blossomed. We got the opportunity to move here to Arizona. Our business just expanded beyond anything we could have imagined. We were able to invest and do all of these incredible things that, us even a year before had been like, well, other people can do that, but we can't do that, you know? And so
Mm-hmm.
our whole mindset shifted honestly in the moment that I allowed myself to shift. And so I'm just like such a proponent for women and mothers especially to be able to feel that in themselves. And I've witnessed that in my clients over and over, and to see them, sometimes it happens like that, right? It's like a moment where you feel like you physically have to cut a cord. And sometimes it takes time, but when it resonates in their body that like, I did this, I can
Yeah.
walk into this room and I have this power that's not challenging anybody, that it's just truly and purely me, and I feel safe. It is like the coolest thing in the world to hear that, and just to witness these women just so strong and confident in who they are, because then they get to show other women it's possible, right? And people start getting curious and asking questions. So long story long, I started in Maine and now I'm in Arizona.
Yeah. I love that though, because your journey wasn't just about moving to new cities. It was actually moving through the different versions of you and creating the boundaries to allow for those opportunities to come about. And so sometimes it takes moving, sometimes it takes like just a big shift within us. We don't even have to move anywhere, but yeah, I love that story. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So tell us about your current business, Visionary Experiences. Tell us about like how you started that and what are all the cool things that it's doing right now.
Yeah, so it actually honestly did not start out anything like what I'm doing today, right? I just knew, I think typical postpartum, I had a very raw and difficult postpartum with my son, mainly again because I had so many people controlling. And we are at the time affiliated with this company that is just, it's not run by a great human. And there was a lot of pressure on us in it to show up a certain way and mother a certain way and be a certain kind of woman. And I mean, he literally, the guy who owned it literally traveled the world or traveled the US and would tell women and men how women should be showing up in life in order to keep their man around, and how to keep their man pleased, and what they should be wearing and how they should be talking. And it was sickening. And at the same time, I felt like I was that woman that was not so much, it wasn't from my husband, but my husband had his own issues at the time where I had to really support him. And so I felt like I had to be very muted. And coming around with Sage, we had deep conversations. At that point, we had broken away from this organization. And, Jock and I, my husband and I, had a very deep conversation where I was like, okay, things need to look different this time around. I need you to show up more for me. And this is how I need you to show up. And so we set a standard where, like, I got 30 minutes to 45 minutes because I was nursing a lot, but I got 30 to 45 minutes to go to the gym and go just walk and be by myself. If I wanted to go out and get fresh air alone, I could. And I'm very much in the person. I'm a projector in human design, but just my makeup, I need my alone time sometimes, or I get very overwhelmed. And so we set different standards when Sage came into the world. And I think that helped a lot. But part of that was like, I felt like I needed something that was my own. I had built Jock's business up, and we got to this place that it was like healthy and strong, and I could start hiring people on to take over some of the work I was doing, but I wanted something that was mine. And so I was like trying to figure out what that was. And I know I was a former flight attendant. I love to travel. I love like planning out trips for people, especially my family, right? And so I thought I wanted to get into like this very specific travel experience for entrepreneurs. And it was very customized. I loved the feel of it, but I quickly soon realized people weren't really asking me for that. They were asking me to like help them with events. And I found out I did not like that because I had zero control. So, budgets and locations and all this stuff. And it was a lot of like that back and forth miscommunication. And I was like, I don't like this either. I want something where I can create my own schedule. I can create how I show up and how I feel and everything. So in the process of trying to create this like travel business, I had been on my own healing journey. I had actually, when we moved to Arizona, I met with this woman. She's fantastic. She's a shaman, and she does this really beautiful style of breath work. It's different than what I do, but I actually incorporate some of her techniques into how I do breath work or serve breath work. And it was one of the most powerful experiences I have ever had. It was the first time. I had never done any kind of a drug, not even like a psychedelic at that point. And I used to be in my 20s. I was quite the partier with drinking and all that, but I really wasn't much of a drinker either. And so like to have this experience where you have almost this like full body high, right? But it came from your breath was
Yeah.
like, what is this? Like, I can get this and I don't have to do anything that's harming me. And it was just fantastic because my whole mind opened up to things that I didn't even know were there. And then from that, I started to get connected to sound healing, which music has always been a big part of my life. I actually grew up singing in this like country band when I was little. I used to do karaoke all the time. Like I actually wanted to like create, that was a big dream of mine when I was little, is I wanted to have like an album and be the next Britney Spears and all of the things, right? And so sound healing just came very natural. It felt so just connected to me. And so I went down that and I started having more experiences there. And I was like, oh, I'm definitely going to have to I wanted to get certified because I wanted to be able to test out all of the different instruments that were out there and how you could play with them and really make them yours. And what I loved about the certification, the experience that I had was they didn't try to force you into a box. It wasn't like band in middle school, right? Where you had to play the strategic notes and everything had to look. It was so intuitive and it was so just very connected. And I tell my clients now, I've been getting a lot of like these beautiful, actually like women friend groups experience, like private experiences, and none of them are the same because honestly, being in the energy of whoever I'm serving, you help co-create the sound that's going to come from that experience. So it is wild at the end when we go over and kind of open it up for conversation, the things that come through, because every bowl that I'm hitting, every instrument that I'm working with connected to someone in that space, and they didn't even know why initially,
Yeah.
So that again just kind of like enveloped into like more and more of what was out there. And I got so curious. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I could actually ask questions. I grew up initially it was Catholic, and then it was Southern Baptist, but in Northern Maine, which is kind of weird. So, and then I went down my whole, route, and I went non-denominational for a while. And I always still felt like someone was telling me how I had to show up, how I had to connect to God, how I had to speak and talk and dress and all of the things. And as I started getting curious, I started finding myself stepping away from that. And not to say there's nothing against that at all. If you want to go to church and be connected, I love that for you. But for me, I felt more connected to God on a daily basis when I finally silenced all of the noise and just prayed. I just got down and I prayed the way I needed to. And I knew that He was understanding everything that my soul needed, right? And so as I started going into these deeper modalities, I started becoming closer to God. And it was incredible the things that were coming through. And when I tell you, I love this example because there's this really potent medicine that I like to work with now. It's called hape, and it's a really beautiful tobacco that is prayed over. It's very sacred. It's not anything like a cigarette or anything, but it's huffed and it's used for meditation for a couple of reasons. It either drops you into your body or kind of gets you into this ethereal place. And so I remember we were trying to actually buy this house right here. And it was like, yes, no, all of the things, because we're business owners and that can be a little tricky sometimes, right? And that morning, it was just like an envelope of all of these things in our life that was just packing. And I kept holding on and I'm holding on and I'm holding on. And I remember pulling over my car after I dropped off my kids. I pulled into a Walmart parking lot and I screamed from like the depths of my soul in my car. And I was like, oh, I feel so good. I feel like I just unlocked something. And I looked over and there's a cop next to me. And I'm like, I'm good. We're right here. And so I like just drove off and I had my hape with me. And I decided to go for a little hike on a mountain near us that I really felt connected to. So I went up there, I sat with hape, I prayed, I meditated. And as I'm walking up the mountain, our realtor calls and he's like, hey, I'm so sorry that you guys lost the house. Like, I'm sorry that this isn't working out. We'll find you something better. And I was like, there's no need. I was like, we're getting this house. There's no need. And he was like, I love your optimism. And I'm like, I know it sounds weird to you, and I can't explain it to you, but I'm letting you know that this house is ours and I'm grateful that you helped us. And he was like, okay. And we like hung up. I go and I meditate. I see all of the things very clearly, literally like have this vision of this like third eye into a sun. And it was like glorious. I remember writing down the picture, like drawing the picture out and everything. And I just felt so certain in my body as I'm walking down the mountain that this was happening for us. And there was no question about it. So I went to a lash appointment, literally from the mountain, go to the lash appointment, get out of my lash appointment. And it was, everything is set. You've got the house. And I was like, I know, but thank you also, And so it was just this practice of really listening and being more in tune to your body, because everything that we have, everything that we need is in us, but we're always looking outside of ourselves. And that's where it gets tricky. That's where we start to feel lost and we really truly start to feel ungrounded, right?
Yeah.
And so Jock got connected to some plant medicine workers, and he actually was the first one to sit with Kambo. He actually sat with Kambo and then this other medicine that comes from a frog called Bufo. And he was in Sedona, and I remember we met up with him in Sedona after he'd had his experience, and he was just like so calm, and he was sharing all of these things with me, and I was like, yeah, no, I don't think I'm ever going to do that. That just doesn't sound like my jam. So we were talking some more though, and I witnessed him start to like kind of shift in that moment. And so I got curious and I was like, you know what? I think I do want to work with Kambo. And it was wild thinking back now, as a child, I was like obsessed with frogs. I loved frogs. And it was like something you don't think about, right? It doesn't really mean anything to you in the time, but I loved frogs. And then later in life, I was always the person to care for people if they got sick because it never bothered me. A lot of people couldn't handle someone purging and it just never fazed me. So I was the one to take care of people. And so, I go and I have this experience and it was profound. It was something, again, it kind of connected me almost to like my home birth experience where you're so connected to your body and you have to trust your body to these limits that you never knew. And the whole experience is only about 20 minutes. But in that process, you're having all of these messages come through and you really, really have to lean in and trust your body. And I felt so empowered and so just at peace at the end of it. And so I got more curious on that and, tapping into breath work. I got certified in breath work because I saw what it did. And I told Jock, and I was like, you know what? I think I want to get certified in Kambo because being in this space, I truly have cultivated my business around being ethical and truly supporting people and helping people get to their truest purpose, right? And I know that's kind of like a trendy phase right now, but like I mean that so much because it's something that you have to just really resonate with. It's hard to put into words.
Yeah.
Also, I see so many people abusing these modalities kind of the same way medical does, you know? And so I saw people not truly caring or showing up for people the way they needed to, not providing pre and post care for their people that they're working with, the people they're facilitating. And the pricing. I know we live in a world where it's like price yourself at your worth and go big and go whatever, but yes and no. At what extent does that mean that it's your ego coming into play, right? Because if you're going to tell someone your pricing and your whole body is sitting there going, I don't resonate with this doesn't feel good to me, but everybody else is telling you, yeah, go big, go bigger, go bigger, you're going to become unaligned. And that's
Yeah.
kind of what's happening in this medicine field is people were charging ridiculous amounts. Like when I tell you my last sit was $500 for like a 15-minute experience, and it wasn't anything profound, it wasn't anything unique or different. Kambo should not be $500 for a sit. It should not be. Other people might have an opinion on that, but I truly believe that this needs to be accessible for people. And then you get into like the 3 or 4 packages, and like it just got ridiculous. And so I remember going to that last sit and being like, okay, I'm going to go get certified because I see that this magic is being taken from this medicine and I want to be able to bring it back and I want to bring it back safely. So I ended up getting certified actually in Colorado through a phenomenal group called Tribal Detox. And they care so much for the medicine, but the safety of the medicine for the frog and for the client. And so they're really big. They're not so much big on they understand that I could go out and I could connect with indigenous people and they could teach me more of the magic of the music and the flow behind it. But they teach the true potency of what is Kambo? How is that going to benefit you? And how do I get to keep everybody safe? Because a lot of people are getting caught up in our side of the country of just serving it and being very like into this like facade of being spiritual, but they're not doing it safely, right? So you
Mhm.
can go in and have this like spiritual, I can go around and drum around you and sing around you, but that doesn't mean I'm keeping you safe. And so I really was just so impressed by their thought process and their care for the medicine and how they handled even the whole training situation was beautiful. So I'm just really proud to be able to serve that medicine now and feel so confident. And I actually was telling my husband and a couple other people is when I got certified in breathwork, I don't have anything to do with your experience other than guide you, right? I create a playlist and I hold a safe space for you, but it is up to you to do the work. I can't breathe for you. I can only coach you through it, but I cannot do the breath for you. And I would get so anxious every time I'd go to serve someone for breath work because I was like, well, what if they don't have a good experience? What if they don't feel the way I did? And you know what?
Mm.
95% of the time they didn't. It's not that they didn't have a great experience. They didn't feel it the way I did it. They didn't express themselves the way I did it because I get in, I get primal. And they didn't do that. And so I was like, well, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not, and you go into that little ego side of the mind. And I really had to work hard on separating that from myself. However, I went into Kambo where I do have to do the work. I have to know how much water, when you're drinking water, if you fasted, all of these things beforehand. And I felt so confident. Not once was I like scared of how it was going to be for someone because I knew I was safely carrying them through this journey, right? And so it was just a whole other element. And again, coming back to kind of that like God connection, I handed in my test when I went to that certification. And I had been for the past, probably year, feeling like I loved where my business had blossomed to, but it felt incomplete. And I handed in my test, and literally at that moment, there was this voice that came down and it said, "It is complete." And I was like, "Whoa," like full body chills. I was like, okay, I love this. And honestly, from there, it's been incredible. I just went through a whole rebrand to truly like show up as who I am and show, I think, again, kind of from what I've witnessed is in this space, I feel like a lot of people are kind of putting on a show and they forget like to connect with themselves of like, how do I want to dress? How do I want to show up in this space? Who am I, right? Who am I in this? And I very much am confident in the space that I am a little bit boho and I am a lot of bit bougie, and I'm okay with that. And so I get to express that. And I went through this rebrand to really express that and allow women to feel confident if they're feeling any kind of way. Like, who are you? What is it that you enjoy? And you get to show up like that rather than what people are telling you because you work in corporate or because you work in the spiritual space or because you know, whatever you
Yeah.
do. And then I also got my website created. And it's like, to me, that was such a passion project because I finally have this like home space that really truly walks everybody through what I do, how to connect to me. It was amazing. So all of that rolled out at the beginning of this year. And I was like, oh, okay, now we're hitting the ground running.
Woohoo! Well, congratulations. Because it's like you know how you could serve people, but being able to reach them and have them understand it is like this whole other process where you have to create the ways to communicate with people and build kind of that trust before you ever even have a session with them. And so yeah, so congratulations on all of that work, because I know how that goes. So so for everybody who is not familiar, we're going to just do kind of like the catch you up thing. So um some of you guys in the community, you know that I am like crunchy, but also sparkly, like you're saying, right? It's like the boho, bougie, all of it. Like I'm just my own unique brand. I'm Brenda. And so I like all my naturopathic healing and my oils, and I'm very much tuned into the earth and all that kind of stuff. But I also really love just like fashion and fun and just expression and creativity. But yeah, just play. I just love to play. And I like to get in tune to myself and to the world around me. So I have over the years gone through like a lot of this kind of stuff myself. And so some of you guys know how I love breath work. And I like the Mastery app. I don't have like somebody that I've worked with. I like haven't really known people individually that did it. And so the easiest way of entry for me was like, okay, download this app, and they're like recorded sessions, and I could sit in the rocking chair on my back porch with the sun shining on my face and get that. You truly do almost feel like you have a buzz or a high, or like you're in the middle of a dream, like that feeling like where you wake up in the middle of the night to go pee, and you're still kind of dreaming, and then you go right back and you go right back into your dream, right? Like I kind of feel like you achieve, I'm not sure if that's like alpha, theta, whatever the brain waves are, but you achieve that through your own breath and how your body is turning over oxygen and carbon dioxide. And actually, there's a whole Human Lab podcast that explains it in science, which is cool too. But I love that kind of stuff because I sometimes also feel like when I feel stuck in my own brain and I need answers, like I just need to go to my breath because the answers are already inside of me, and I just need to be able to listen to it and be still and like pause and let it surface. And so I love that kind of stuff. Sound bath is another one of those things that holy cow, like you know the feeling when you get off a roller coaster and you just feel like you've been like vibrated and like things are coming loose, and like sometimes in a bad way, but sometimes it feels good. Or just like that like feeling when you're at a festival and the music is rumbling through you. I get that feeling whenever I do sound bath. And it is absolutely correct that it's like whoever else is in the room, whether it's inexperienced people that are struggling to let go and fully experience it, or people who are more experienced who are like set right into it, right? It's kind of like a yoga class or other group energy work where you get different energies depending on who's in there with you. And I actually love it. I love being in classes with people who have never done it before, because you feel like all of a sudden this like, okay, there it is. Like, it's like so cool. Like you just feel like this group release where everybody finally is like, oh, I get it now. And so sound bath is, for those of you who don't know, there's bowls that, and you can explain this further, but it's like you take kind of like a little mallet. I'm not sure what it's actually called, but you like can tap it or you rub it around, and then it gives different tones. And there's different size bowls, and they have different resonances, and so deeper or higher or whatever it is. And so they carry that tone. It's the coolest thing. So we have my husband got me the one for love, so love chakra. And so he got me that one. And so when things just get tense in my house, sometimes I'll just go and I will do the bowl, and it makes this like ooh noise that just vibrates throughout the whole house. It's in my bedroom, but you can hear it like outside in the backyard. You can hear it everywhere. It's not loud, but it does carry. And, or, I mean, it is like the volume is there, but it's not as loud as you would think it would need to be for it to carry that much. And the coolest thing that I always think is that my dogs will be laying on the floor right next to it. And if I do it, like if you turn on the radio and put it really loud, the dogs leave because they're like, nope, too loud. It's too sensitive for their ears. But if I do the bowl and they're laying on the floor, they don't even move. Like they're just like, they don't mind it at all. It feels so natural. It's like Earth's rhythms. And so to me, that's such a good reflection of like the things that we need to tune into more. If it's something that our dogs are like, get me out of here, then we should probably also be more aware of that. But if it's the things that our animals in our environment are actually drawn to, then we should be drawn to it also. And so there are these bowls and they give off these different sounds. And so when you're in a sound bath, everybody's laying on the floor and on these mats, very relaxed. And whoever is doing it, so Megan would be going around and has all these different shaped size bowls all in front of her. And she is playing all of them. And it's just all these different sounds and it's beautiful. And it's like a wind chime of the soul. And so it's just this beautiful experience. I absolutely love it. Yeah, like when I start doing retreats, I definitely want this to be part of the experience for people. And I can't wait for people who have never even done it before to experience it, because it really is. It's like, and then after you leave, you just have this profound feeling of like everything you do, like you go to eat at a restaurant afterwards and like the food just tastes better, and you hear music and you hear songs and you start to appreciate little tiny bits of the song that you never noticed before. And you're just so much more tuned in and grounded. And so it's just such a beautiful experience. And I love that you're making this more available for people, because before this was like, you go to Sedona and you go to like a hippie retreat to be able to experience this kind of stuff. When I first had attended some of these, then I started looking around Tucson and I was like, oh my gosh, there's gotta be sound bath. And I couldn't find anybody that did sound bath besides like a private session that you could hire, but there's not like consistent places that did them. And that was probably like 7 years ago. And so now it's starting to be where you can find more of these things available. And so I love that not only are you bringing it to people like me who can enjoy it, but you're also making other moms and other people aware of like, this could be a thing that you do, like other moms who are into it, like they could find this as their thing that they get to share with the world also. And so, yeah, like you don't have to be a 9-to-5er. You can go and get into the rhythms and like tune into the earth in this way and share it with other moms. And so I just love everything you're doing now. So that's sound bath. That is kind of like a little breathwork sound bath. But then now Kambo, this is something I just learned about last year through another practitioner that's like yourself. He lives way up in Washington, Oregon. Anyways, but yeah, so he was telling me all about Kambo, and he's like gone down to South America and done ceremonies down there, and then worked with a team. I'm not sure if it was like the same people out of Colorado or whoever, but like making sure that they are safely harvesting it and using it as a medicine and all this. So he does it. He guides these kind of things up where he lives. Mount Hood, Washington, I think it is. So anyways, but I had never heard of it before. So this is where they take rainforest. You could tell me, but I'm going to give like my like brief understanding. It's like rainforest frogs that have toxicity in like the little like poison dart frog kind of thing, right? And then they take some of the enzyme from them safely and use that as medicine for our bodies to safely take the small little dose of it that we can use that we need as medicine. So tell us more about Kambo.
Yeah. So Kambo is actually, I think it's cool. I do want to touch on what you said too about like where the harvest. The cool thing about where I got certified is we were actually gifted a whole plot of land where those frogs were the only ones that have access to them. That way that they know that they're taken care of. They're not abused. They have like, you can kind of see when they've been recently scraped of the secretion. So we don't touch them for quite a while. So it's a very ethical practice of receiving this
Cool.
frog. But basically you did get it right. It's these frogs are in the Amazon, and there's a secretion that comes from them, and it protects them in their environments. And so we don't take a ton of it because we still want to make sure that they have their protection that they need. But they will gently scrape the secretion from the frog, and it goes onto these little sticks. And the secretion is full with bioactive peptides that are identical or very closely resembling the ones that we have and we kind of lose over time.
Yeah.
So what we do is that it goes onto these sticks and it dries. And then in the Kambo ceremony, it's a very specific process. And I can kind of walk you through quickly, like what a journey looks like. But basically, how I do it is in the beginning, I offer this plant medicine called Sananga. And they're basically these eye drops that come from this plant called the Tabernae montana. And I'm not gonna lie to you, it's kind of like I just blew cayenne pepper into your eyeballs. Like it stings. However, I have personally been doing kind of my own research on my clients, and those who opt in and those who decide to not sit with it, the ones who have sat with it handle Kambo better. Because the purpose of it is to tap you into your body so deeply that you understand how to trust and connect to your body. And it only lasts for maybe like a few minutes. But I have everybody settle into like these deep belly breaths before I even allow them to open their eyes and blink it in. That way they can learn to control anything that we come up against, right? Because our
Yeah.
automatic defense when we get stressed, if you think about it, you're in like a crazy driving situation, right? And then after you get out of it, you go, oh, you held your breath the whole time.
Yeah.
Naturally, in those moments, we should be tapping into our breath, but we tend to hold our breath. So it's such a beautiful way to start this journey and this experience to be able to tap into the body. And then after they've come out of Sananga, I offer them hape, which again is a very
Right.
opening,
And it
heart opening
grounds. Yes. Yeah. And
ground.
I've done hop A before.
Yep.
And for me, it's like for all of you moms, like when you go get a really good massage and then you get out of your massage and you're like, oh, that's what I needed. That's the feeling you get from hop A, except you don't go through a whole 90-minute massage to get it. It's very instant. It like drops you right into this really grounded feeling.
Yes. And you know what's funny about that is I've been trying to really make that more of, again, like a safety, because I think there's a little bit of a stigma around it. Just people are nervous of the unknown, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I've been offering hape and sound healing experiences to allow people to just dabble in it. And we don't use much. It literally takes like I put a pea size and I split that in half. And what happens is I very gently just blow it up your nose and you sit in meditation and you can feel yourself automatically just like open up. It's
Yeah.
amazing. It's such an amazing experience. And so I've had, women that I've served, and at first everybody gets nervous. And so I really just allow them to like share or feel calm, and I talk to them and I make them feel very grounded. And then they know that I'm there with them when it initially kind of flows into the body. And so, but every single one afterwards has gone, oh, that was incredible. I am so excited that I experienced that because
Yeah.
it truly is this experience that you would never be able to tap into on your day to day. So
Yes. And
it's
these are all things that have been used this way since the beginning of time. Like modern medicine is like such a blip of time in all the history of mankind. And so all these other modalities have been used to treat humans and to move them through their existence for so long. And so it's just so funny that like people now they're like, I trust modern medicine so much, but I don't trust these other things. That it's like, here's our whole timeline of humans and here's modern medicine. Here's all the other stuff. Nope, can't trust that. No, but this, I'm going to just go with that. That seems right. And so,
and so like even
yeah.
doc being in functional medicine, our big thing is medicine is there for life or death, right? Like I am so grateful if anything ever happened and like it was literally a life or death situation, we've got the hospitals, we've got medications on,
Yes.
right? But on your day to day, keeping yourself healthy, make sure you're regulating your hormones or your liver or your gut health, like
Yeah.
all of it can be done through the herbs that we've been given.
Yes. The earth has all of it. Yes.
So much there. So after hot bay, we go into Kambo. And at this point, you have fasted for about 8 to 12 hours. So I'll say, okay, now it's time to drink. And I have a very specific amount of water that you have to drink right before I serve you Kambo. So while I'm preparing the dots for the Kambo, you're going to be drinking the water. And beforehand, I've opened what's called the gates. So I take an incense stick and I have it on my arm. There's like little dots on there. I
Yeah.
take an incense stick and I very quickly just tap, and we just literally take off the first or second layer of skin. And so I wipe them open and you can see there's like little white dots at that point. That's
Mm-hmm.
where we apply the combo.
Yeah.
You're drinking the water. I'm preparing these tiny little dots that honestly look like little boogers. They don't look cute. And then I do a test dot just to see how you respond with the medicine, but also to allow you to connect to the medicine because
Mm-hmm.
it goes in much more gentle. So we place a point on, I watch you for about 5, 6 minutes, and then I go and I apply the rest that you have felt called to sit with. And
Mhm.
in that process, what's going to happen is you're going to feel a rush of sensations that come up and kind of, it literally honestly goes like up and then down into your body. And you're going to feel waves of nausea and all of this. And what's happening is a lot of people, when you hear Kambo, they focus on the detox part of it. And while there are detox properties to it, the purge is not the end result. I have had clients who don't purge, and that's okay.
Mhm.
But that's where I was saying in some of those other modalities, they're so focused on that purge. But what you really or truly are doing is receiving the benefits of the peptides.
Yeah.
So these peptides are going in and they are amazing, amazing for cancer, anybody with Lyme, autoimmune, PTSD, anxiety, stress, just massive overwhelm and inflammation.
And these are all things that are like inherent in our bodies, but in low levels as we age, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's
So it's
going
kind of
in.
like how people will even do colostrum therapy nowadays too. Like when we're babies, if we're breastfed, we are getting the colostrum from our mothers. And then eventually there's like less and less of all of the IgA, IgB, all the different little components of it that are floating around in our body. Well, then there's people who, when they're going through treatments, that's now a thing that they're doing now is colostrum therapy when they're going through cancer and all these different illnesses to reintroduce basically all those nutrients that you would have had when you were a tiny baby. And so this is the same idea where these are all just natural components that are already part of us. Just like people take melatonin, but our body also makes melatonin, right? And so there's all these little pieces of it that it's like we don't have to think of it as such this foreign thing. They're all just like reinvigorating the doses back into our body that we used to have.
Yes, absolutely. And that's honestly from the physical side of it, right? And like I
Yeah.
said, there are going to be some detox properties that happen where it's going to be flushing out of your body. And, it's honestly a full 20-minute experience with the combo. So for those 20 minutes, you're going to feel uncomfortable, but that's where you get to tap in and say, okay, I'm sitting with this for 20 minutes. How do I handle discomfort? How do I handle stress and overwhelm? How do I handle life when things get very uncomfy for me, right? So it's like this beautiful reflection in it. And I love witnessing how everybody's kind of like moved through it because every single client has handled it very differently.
Hmm.
And so, the 20 minutes goes, I wipe them off and then you rest and I provide like a little bit of snacks after for you just to recover. And then afterwards, I check in, within a day or two just to see how you're doing, how you're feeling. Some people feel like my husband, he could go to the gym and feel like he got the best work out of his life. It is phenomenal if you are in that like weightlifting kind of industry. So good for your body to replenish things, but also to give you like that extra stamina that you want. For me, I'm actually I am not sensitive to anything other than combo. Very sensitive to combo.
Hmm.
So I could have a great experience with like a couple of points on my body, but I also need to rest and recover after. So I need a little bit more tender care for my body after, where some people just feel very ignited. I always tell people to kind of plan for the rest of the day to be a little bit more gentle, just in case, because we're not going to know until after the combo experience how your body wants to respond. But that's kind of from that physical standpoint, but from like more of that mental, spiritual standpoint too, is you're going to notice like colors become brighter. Your hearing becomes more just open and aware. Your energy feels a lot lighter and softer, and you'll start to tune in if you allow yourself to. You
Yeah.
start to tune into the energies that are around you, right? So, what am I letting into my space on a daily basis that I didn't even realize? How am I handling my children when they're having a bit of a breakdown, right? And we are more than okay to settle in the fact that we are overwhelmed. I want to say that because I feel like I have seen in this like mom shift where it's like, the kids don't know how to regulate themselves. And so you have to, and yes, absolutely, we have to learn how to do this. And also, if we are freaking overstimulated, that's a real thing. And you get to say, I'm overstimulated, like feel the
Yep.
feels, right? And so it's a beautiful way of recognizing, like, where have I not been allowing myself? And this was something I learned from my ayahuasca experience last year was I needed to call in more peace and gentleness. And I wasn't giving myself that space. And since that experience, and especially since I've sat with Kambo a few times after, that's that reminder of, Meg, this is what you needed. You needed more grace in your life, more gentleness, more softness. And yet, when things ramp up, you ramp up too. And that's supposed to be the moment where you encourage more gentleness to come into that space. And so it's just this really powerful spiritual opener where you can almost like feel energy. You know where to stay away from, you know what to call in. And it can be again another really empowering experience, especially as a mom, where we have so many things. It's so noisy on TikTok and social media, and like, Instagram, everywhere is telling us how we need to mom, how we need to show up, how to be the best wife, how to be this, how to be that, how to be the best single mom, like whatever it looks like. There's so many people with so many opinions. And while they might be sharing, and I want to reiterate too, everything that I'm sharing here today is my journey, my story. I'm just offering from like that mentor standpoint of where I've been and what has worked for me. However, I want to reiterate the fact that I am not telling anybody that this is absolutely going to be the thing for you. I am empowering you to go find the thing for you.
Yes,
Because so many
exactly.
people are telling us how we need to be and what's going to fix us and what will make us a better person. And at the end of the day, they don't have their shit together. They just
Yes.
don't,
And everybody in the community has started to realize just how diverse all the voices are that I've been featuring in my interviews. And some of you have messaged me and been like, oh my gosh, like one week it's the person talking about this and then this, and it's all these different things. Like, they're like, I just love that you know all these different types of people and you're like bringing them to share with us, because they're like, a lot of people in the community have never heard some of these other perspectives. And so what I always say and what I always encourage on all of these interviews is just take the ingredients to make your own cake. Like, all these little tiny bits and pieces that you hear, like, you don't need all of it. Just take the piece that you need and put that in your formula, in your recipe. And so like, you'll hear all these different pieces of the puzzle from all these different moms out there. And this is exactly what it means to be a kick-ass modern mom, is like, you get to do it your own way. You get to take things from the past that serve you and put those into your modern journey, but you also get to pave your own way and be your own pioneer through this and inspire the people who come after you. And so that's what it's all about. And so I absolutely love how you're talking about this, is like, our mentors don't want us to be exactly like them. Our mentors are just guiding us to find our own way. And so by you having these opportunities to mentor moms and other women or any person through these modalities, it's really just like guiding them to find themselves. And so you're just creating the opportunity to give them another way to do that than they might not have been able to do in the past. And so I just love that.
It's so empowering. And, I'm going to tap into a couple other things real quick, but I do want to circle back to the sound healing side of things, because for me as a mom, my son was very different than my daughter. And I truly chalk that up to the fact that I started doing this work, like deep, deep, dark work. I went to places that I thought I never had to go back to. And it was my responsibility to face them and truly move them out of my body. Right. And I did that when I was pregnant with Sage, did not do that with Hoyt. I still let people suppress me and do things that I needed to. So they are very different children. How he
Mm-hmm.
shows up, how he expresses anger, how he expresses just emotion in general is so different than how Sage expresses everything. And I've really had to work with that, because I saw pieces that I was trying so deeply to heal within myself as a child, like go back to my little girl version of me. But Hoyt is my reflection of that. He's 5 now, and just recently, as in the past like 6 months, has he been able to really transform into this boy who processes his emotions a little bit quicker. Whereas before, and I think I talked to you about this when we met each other, but
Yeah.
so I saw him in me and it terrified me, because he didn't know how to express his emotions. So he would go into his room, and I kept it different. Whereas like when we were little, we just kind of got shoved into a room and we're like, handle it. For me, it was, baby, this is a quiet, safe space for you to be able to process, because right now I think my energy is maybe like encouraging more of that angst. And I want you to be able to feel separate from me. I want you to be able to feel it and know that you're safe and I'm here. I'm right here if you need me. But I would let him go into his room for a moment to breathe, and I would remind him how to breathe. We did breathing techniques. He'd bring him into my sound healing space and let him bang on the drum or play with my bowls if he needed to, just to move that energy, right? And there
Mm-hmm.
were times where it just did not work. I would get down and I do all of the things where you try to talk to him and open up that space, and it did not work. So what happened is I would allow him that space in his room to just be able to sit, because I'm like, I need quiet space. I need to be able to have a moment to say what's mine and what's everybody else's. But he would take everything in his room and he would chuck it. His whole bedroom right now is just dense from that era of like 2 years of him throwing anything and everything he possibly could at his walls and at his doors and trying to break everything down. And I saw this rage in him that I wanted so differently for him. I had this expectation that because I was doing things different, he wouldn't be me as that little girl version of me, right? And I didn't have
Mm-hmm.
that safe space, or I didn't feel like I had that safe space to be held, be seen. I felt like I was just a problem. So of course I acted out. And so I wanted so different for him. And I made sure my words were clear that he was not a problem, that I was there for him, but he still would just express it. And I was like, what is wrong with me? I'm a horrible parent. I'm the worst mom in the world. I'm doing everything wrong. Right. And I mean, I tried to do all of these things, but I also realized I was letting the noise of the world get to me. I was letting the world tell me how that perfect passive mom was supposed to be, right? How you were showing love if you did it X, Y, and Z. And I was like, but my child is not everybody else's child. He is different and he needs to be seen differently and held differently. And so we tried a few different modalities. And honestly, like it was the day of his 5th birthday, something in him just shifted. And he since then has been the kindest, most gentle human. But when he has his moments, he expresses them safely and moves through them 1,000 times quicker. In the past, if I had let him rage out forever, he would have gone days. And he was screaming at the top of his lungs and nothing would calm him. Nothing. And we don't do dairy, we don't do gluten, we don't do dyes. So it wasn't food related. My husband literally is functional. We've done the tests, we've done all the things, and so
Yeah.
like it wasn't anything there. And so we were like, okay, there's something else here where it was a generational passed on situation. Whereas with Sage, she doesn't and never has done any of that. Never. And she just processes things very differently. She has no problem running into our arms and wanting a hug and like doing that. Whereas Hoyt was me. I didn't do that. My dad gave me a kiss when I was going to college, and I was like, ew, what? It made me so uncomfortable because we weren't a huggy kissy family. Like it just wasn't like that. And so I wanted so different for him. But then I also had to realize I was placing an expectation on him to make
Mm-hmm.
me feel better. Right. And
Yeah.
so that was part of my growth as a mom to say, okay, I see where my ego is kind of getting into play. I see where I did shift how I was showing up in the world. However, I'm projecting things still onto him and placing expectations on him versus seeing him as a whole separate person who does have generational things attached to him. So how can I support him in this time? And it has completely shifted how we've been able to process things or move things. And also, I get to ask for help, right? I'm in a lucky space where I do have a partner who's very involved. And so, in those moments where I just literally cannot get my brain to wrap around anything else to support him, I get to tap out. And we literally get to
Yes.
say, I tap out.
Yes. Yeah, we do a lot of the same here, and it ebbs and flows, and sometimes I'm the one needing to tap out a lot and have my husband step in, and then lately it's been that he needs to tap out. And so whatever energy we're bringing that is not helping the situation, or it's not guiding it through whatever the process is, and then we just have to know, like, it ebbs and flows. Like sometimes one person's energy works better for whatever the kid is going through. And so, yeah, my 3 kids are such 3 different humans, and they all have their own different little energies about them and the way they interact with the world. And I know that, like, my youngest, the same, like I went through a lot of this same kind of process, after my second was born. And so since my second, and then through that pregnancy. And so let's see, I started doing acupuncture on a regular basis when I was pregnant with my second, but then with my third, I did acupuncture. Like she even came and did a house call during my home birth and did the points, to help with delivery. And so it was just a bigger part of me. And I did myofascial release during that pregnancy and all these other modalities where it was just really tuning into my own power. And so it's so true. Like they come onto this earth side in their own little body vehicle, like encapsulating so much of that already. And so he really is so wise, and he really does teach me so often. And the way that he responds to his environment is sometimes just so much stronger than how the other kids do. But I like that he's actually expressing it. And so whether it's love, he expresses it very strongly, or if it's anger, he expresses it very strongly. And so he's just a very expressive little guy. But I know, like, as I've learned now, that as adults, when we need to let something move through us, a lot of times we're doing it in a mental way. And so, or like, I love exercise and movement and hiking and those kind of things because that body movement kind of moves it through you also. But for little kids, it's like they got to throw, they got to punch, they got to move their body. Like they're already moving all the time more than we do. And so for them to move things out, they got to move at a way higher rate than they normally would. And so that is sometimes just like violent throwing, kicking, bashing, banging, all those things. But they're moving it out and they're moving all of that emotion through them the same way that we do, just in a different way. And so I just have to remember, like, he just needs to get it out. And like, it, like me telling him hold it in, hold it in, hold it in isn't going to make him process that any better. It's just like, here, let's go outside and bang around instead of like breaking your lamp or whatever is going on, right? Let's have like spots that we can feel safe to move that through us. And he's also very good at just saying exactly what he feels. And my other two kids have never had that way of expressing themselves. Like it's taken them a while longer. And my oldest is 11 and she now is like very good at saying, Mom, when you say this, I feel this. Like she's gotten very good at that. But my now 5-year-old, he just turned 5. He will like come right out and be like, stop saying that. It makes me feel like this. Like it just comes right, you know? And so he's very, very in touch with that. And so they are our teachers. We think like we're parents and we're like, oh, I need to teach them all the things so they move about the world the way they need to. And I'm going to create this little person, like, and everything I say and do is making that wrong. They are already exactly what they're going to be. They're actually here to teach us more about ourselves. They help us reparent ourselves. And while, yes, we have to keep them safe, but mostly we just have to guide them through their own journey that they're already on. And if we can remember that as much as possible, then it really makes our parenting a lot easier. And like just stepping back and really seeing like, oh my gosh, like I feel like I'm the kid and they're the parent in this situation, and really like letting go of that ego of like, I'm supposed to be the one that knows all the answers. They ask me questions I don't understand, you know, but it's like, yeah, I'm learning alongside you, buddy. You're teaching me too.
And
Yeah.
I think for those modalities too of like what I serve is so helpful because I've noticed, and maybe it's not the same for you or anybody else that's watching this, but for me personally, I didn't have a tribe. I've got a couple of best friends, but even them, I can only say so much, right? And it's very much we were raised in like, you just don't talk about that stuff. You don't talk about when you're having a hard time with your partner. You don't talk about when you're struggling with your kids. Or if you do, it's always like, it'll get better. It's okay. And that's not what you want to hear. You either want someone to hold space for you, or you want some like valuable tools that are going to help you and help your child, you know?
Yeah.
And I just did not have that. So there were many times where I felt like I was having a full-on breakdown. And I'm like, I'm in this energetic space. Like, why is this happening? And I would realize, oh, it's because I haven't taken care of myself at all. I'm holding on to all of this emotion, taking on his emotion, taking on whatever I can so my husband doesn't have to feel the emotion, but I'm not releasing it anywhere. So going and doing my own breath work, or going and doing a sound bath, or going and taking a dance class, or just moving the energy from your body is so
Yes.
helpful, especially when you don't have those people that you can reach out to. And in all honesty, from what I've heard, is a lot of people don't. There aren't a lot of safe spaces you can go. There's a lot of mom groups. And that's why I think I'm so grateful to have met you and for you to have cultivated this space, because it truly is one of a kind. How many moms groups are out there on Facebook right now? But the second a mom comes out and says, I need help, or I'm struggling because my husband did this, or I'm struggling because I feel guilty as a mom. And it's more bashing than support. It's more
Yes.
tearing that woman down than support, right? And
Yeah.
the problem is we're answering the question. We're not looking at what's actually below the question. Because if you actually took a moment and read whatever it was that that woman was asking, you'd realize that that's not truly what she's asking. She wants to know that she's worthy. She wants to know that she's doing a good enough job. She wants to know that if there is something better that maybe she was missing, someone can come to her with compassion and say, hey, maybe try looking at it from this viewpoint, or maybe why don't you go care for yourself for a moment, or maybe there's this tool or this person I can connect you with that can help you, right? Take something
Hmm.
off of your plate. But I'm so tired of people being like, well, because I did not have this again. And I've been that person for people, and people weren't there when I needed them. But, they're like, well, just call the tribe and just say when you need help and someone will show up with a bottle of wine and like a cup. I never had that. I had a
Yeah.
moment where I truly was at my lowest. And I went, you know what I did? I went to a bar. I'm not even a drinker. I went to a bar down the road by myself and ended up making conversation with this like 80-year-old man for about 2 hours. And that's what healed my soul in that moment.
Yeah.
I didn't have a tribe to go to because anybody I reached out to was too busy, ghosted me, or had something else, that wasn't an answer for that. So I wanted to bring that up too, because I think we do live in this community where there's a lot of people who have a lot of opinions, but it's not necessarily, we have to be protective of where we're putting it out there, right?
Yes.
If we don't have that safe space to put it out there and truly get the help we need, and not the cattiness and not the gossip and not someone else telling us that we're not good enough when that's already what's going on in our own brains,
Yeah.
then we need to be able to have something to go tap into that can move that energy up and out of our body, whether
Yeah.
talking to someone as a mentor, or because that's honestly how I got into that space for the mentorship. I've got a 3 or 6 month mentorship program, and it's using the chakras as pillars. And that's honestly about as woo as it gets. But we tap into each chakra on the pillars and we go through and we spend time there because I want you to get to the root of who you are. I want you to get to
Mhm.
the root of what is still blocking you, what is still holding you there. And I know we have those generalized journal prompts, but we go so deep in these
Yeah.
conversations that people truly get to go back and say, I had no clue. I blocked that out. I had no clue I was still holding on to that. I didn't realize that just a simple letter would help me release that, And like, it's not even something you send to somebody, but we go through all of these spaces because then it gets to empower you to come back to yourself and know, like, at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. I love myself and I trust myself. And that is literally the most important thing. So that way I don't have to go and constantly be validated or search for someone else's opinion when they probably don't even have a good enough. I mean, how many people write parents' books and they either don't have kids or their kids hate them? Like, so we have to be
Yeah.
really careful on the information that we're trying to get from others.
Yeah. I love a few of the things that you talked about here is at the very beginning of this whole interview, you mentioned how you asked your husband for time to yourself and you were like, I need time to myself, or this thing happens that I don't like. And so, and how he was like, okay. And so he would let you have that time to go spend your 30 minutes doing whatever it was you needed to do. That's something that we are really big on in my household too. Like sometimes my husband needs to just go and have some time to himself or with his friends. Sometimes I need to go. And so you guys will see me posting in my stories and posting on my socials, all these adventures that I do with my kids, sometimes all by myself. I like to travel by myself, go to the movies by myself, go to dinner by myself. I'll meet up with friends and do adventures. And so I make it a point to really spend a lot of time not just being mom. And that's really important to me because that is not my sole identity. I'm Brenda. And so Brenda also parents, Brenda also is a spouse, but ultimately, like, I am Brenda and I have to be my best friend. I have to love myself first before I can love all these other people. And if I don't spend the time getting to know myself, then how can I be such a good friend of myself? And so years ago, I remember we were going through a lot of different transitions with my husband's companies and friend groups and, people moving away and all these different things. And you're in college and you feel like these are my friends for life. But what narrow way to think whenever you're that young that like you're going to be done learning and growing about yourself and other people. Like there's so many wonderful people out there that are waiting to meet you and build relationships with you. Like don't just keep yourself to this one little group of friends. There's so many wonderful people out there. And so as you go through the transitions and you start to realize like, oh, wait a second, like I'm not always going to be in this same situation with this same group of people doing the same things every Saturday or Sunday or whatever the day is, right? Spending the same time in the same ways. And I remember just feeling really lonely and thinking like, man, like I wish I had more of these people to spend time with and do the things that I like to do. And, oh, I just want to find somebody that likes to do this thing that I like to do and this thing that I like to do. And I just started to realize like, it's okay if I just do them with myself. Like it is totally okay if I just be a nerd all by myself and just like high five myself and give myself hugs. And so for any of you guys who have done my course or did any of the trainings that we have in the Facebook group, you'll see like all the calls I always like, I'm like, here's your future self and here's your previous self. And they're both proud of you and they both are giving you a hug. And it's so corny, but it's something I truly believe is like, we are our own person in this world. We're the only one that we're going to truly get to know the best. So spend some time getting to know that person. And things like modalities can help you go deeper, faster with that person who is you. But yeah, so friending yourself, I just love that. And I can't stress it enough to all the moms, especially because we get so invested in the relationships around us, our kids, our husband. You mentioned it where it's like almost protecting your husband. I will find myself doing that a lot where like I know he's doing all kinds of stuff with his businesses and I am like, oh wait, I don't want to stress him out more with all this stuff with the household. So I'm just going to take that all and I'm going to carry it. And so he doesn't have to have any of that burden. But then I'm like, okay, when do I get to unload this? When do I get to set it down? Like, okay, where do I put this now? So yeah, so finding the spaces and like you mentioned with the mom groups, I was for sure in mom groups where it's almost like just like a big venting fest where like one person comes and they're like, oh yeah, my husband, blah, 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 like they're bad mouthing their husband. And then the next one is like, oh, well, you think that's bad. Well, what about this? And it's like everyone's trying to story top each other on how negative their life is. And like, oh, well, your kid's like not potty training that. Well, my kid did this. And it's like this competition for suck. And I was like, why are we competing for suck? Like, let's find the good things. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I'm like, I'm going to go take an exercise class instead because this is like serving me to actually move the stuff out of me. And so if you find yourself in those situations where you're like, but I'm friends with them and they're my support group, are they supporting you? Because you could still hang out with them. Like you could do a mom's night out or something else where you guys are doing something fun together, like go dance or go try a new thing where everyone's learning together, not like sitting around talking about suck together because like the negative just begets more negative. And then you start wondering like, why do I just feel so awful in this experience? I have my friends and they're supporting me, but they're not like, it's not what you need. And so sometimes the best thing that you need is just to go be your own friend, as lonely as it feels at first. Once you get to know her, she's amazing. And you're going to want to spend more time with her. And then when she comes out in the world to play with others, she's going to be that more vibrant self that just attracts that good energy instead of the negative energy. And you start realizing all the people that you attract are really like-minded, positive people too, and they really lift you up. And so if you're at that point in your journey and you're like, oh my gosh, but then now what? Trust your instinct. That's like the best thing I can ever say is like, just listen to yourself and listen to what you need. And then the people that are going to support you, they're going to find you, when you start really, truly loving yourself. They'll see that in you and they want to come love you too. So
I
yeah,
love that.
so good.
Listening to your instinct too. I think that comes with this work, right? Because it's a very real thing. We vibrate on frequencies. And where you find all of that angstiness, where you find all that negativity, it's this very low frequency and it
Yeah.
feeds off of each other, right? But as you start to raise your vibrations and raise your frequencies, you start to raise the caliber of people that you call into your space, the caliber of people who want to connect with you and work with you and be in your presence, the people who want to support you. And I think that it's just really nice to practice and know that it's just like everything else in life is it's not going to happen overnight. But taking these steps to actually go inward and do this work and start to reconnect to yourself, start to love yourself. That's when that connecting and listening to your instincts is going to really come in clear, right? Because I know
Mm-hmm.
too, when I am unaligned or I'm in a lower vibrational frequency, I have a very hard time listening to my intuition, and my intuition is loud. That girl comes in fierce in the sacral area. But when I am not in tune, or I haven't been caring for my body, or I've been overwhelmed, or I've been taking on too much stress and not speaking out what I need to speak out, I cannot hear her at all. At all. So something as simple as, what do you want for dinner? I don't know. And I truly don't know because I can't hear her, which is a reminder to myself that I need to get back in tune with my body and what I need to care for my body and my mind and my soul, because we cannot truly show up. We can't make those best mom instincts for our children if we
Mm-hmm.
can't be in alignment with our body, you know? So really tapping into this inner work of like, who am I? And what is it that I want out of life? What creates passion and pleasure and play for me? What makes me feel safe in my body? What makes me feel safe in my environment? All of those questions that, yes, they get a little deep, but those are going to be able to allow you to hear that intuition on a level you've probably never experienced in your life. And it's wild. And it comes in very solidly, even when people are telling you, you're not going to get the house, you're not going to get this. And you're like, that I am. And you just know, and they don't need to
Yes.
because it's not for them, but you know, because you've been told in your body. And that is literally a divine message telling you your own answers. But we don't tap into that as much because we're so used to getting outside,
Yes.
answers.
I mean, everything, every single thing in this life that we need to know is already within us. So you like search and search and search everywhere to get the answers for things. They are within you always. Yeah. So now I want you to two things. One is first tell everybody how they can get started doing this kind of work with themselves. Like, what's the easiest entry level way that they can start? Like they listen to this podcast and they're like, that's it. Today, I'm going to make the time to sit with myself and do these kind of things. I'm going to journal or whatever it is. What are the ways that they can get into it entry level? And then after that, if they want to go deeper, how can they work with you? Tell us where they can find you and what you got going on that they can work with you.
Yeah, so depending on your area, honestly, if you go into like Facebook or Eventbrite, there are so many opportunities now to do a sound healing class or try a yoga class or go to a pole dance class, like something fun, because that truly opens up that sacral area, which is our creative area. That's where we get to tap into our sense of play, our sense of passion, our sense of purpose. And that means our purpose outside of the labels that we placed on ourselves, right? So really finding something as fun as like a pottery class or just something that's creative and inspired, you'll start to feel that new, like something in your body like ignites. And you can find them all over the place. There's constantly really cool events that are going on. And I challenge you to think outside the box. Don't do something that you would normally do, right? I have been craving going to a poetry slam, and I haven't been to one since college, and I loved it. And I just think it's so like passionate. It's full of passion. So I think that's a great place to start, is just find something where you're in community with other people who are trying to really raise their vibrational energy and just have fun somewhere where it's going to be full of fun. And then from there, you could, you can easily go on to Google and say a journal prompt, but I think that that can get a little overwhelming because it's typically like, I don't know where to start. So if anything, start with simple questions like, what is it that I love? Right? What is it that I love in life? How do I want to show up in the world? How am I showing up currently? What are my fears? Those are really great questions to just start with, because it starts to bring awareness to your body and how you're feeling. So like when you're asking those questions, when you say, what are you afraid of? Where in your body do you feel that? Because your body's going to target that area, right? So where in your body do you feel it in your heart? Do you feel it in your lower gut? Do you feel it in your head? Where is it that these sensations are coming up? If you do a sound healing class, I always tell anybody who's come to my experiences, like listen to the music, because some are going to resonate in your body so beautifully and some might trigger you. Both are great. Both are incredible. But where in your body are you feeling it? Because that's going to tell you the area of your body that you need to tap into, that needs a little extra support and love right now, right? So I think that those would be some really great places to start. Like you said, there's apps out there for breath work. Those can be really great. I kind of encourage you to do it in person though, because someone can be there to guide you. It's really easy if you're listening to an app and you're new to that space, where you'll kind of give up on yourself, or you might fall asleep, or you might not, you might overthink, because it's easy, especially in breath work or sound, where you get into your head and you're like, oh, I have laundry, I have to cook dinner, what are we going to do shopping? So like to have someone there that brings you back to the present, I think is really helpful. But if you're wanting to go deeper and you want something, if you're not local to me, because I'm always doing experiences and I've got one-on-one experiences, I do have opportunities to do virtual breathwork sessions where I can still see you. I have you set up the camera so that I can see your body and I can guide you. So I do have virtual breathwork. I do in-person and retreats and all kinds of things when it comes to sound healing. And then my Kambo as well, I actually do kind of like a little bit of a tour, usually mid-year, and I always put it up there. But if it's something that you're wanting, there's definitely ways we can make it happen, where either you can come to me, I can come to you, or I can connect you with someone I trust that might be in your area or close to your area. And then last is the mentorship. And I cannot say enough about how powerful this is. So like I said, I do the 3 month is kind of new, but I've found listening to the community that people like to kind of start in smaller containers, and I'm okay with that. But I've got a 3 and a 6 month container where we do 2 calls a month in person. And these are basically like therapy sessions, because I know back in the day when I needed exactly what I cultivated here, I went to my husband and said, I need a therapist, but I don't need a therapist. I need a therapist who understands that I need a safe space to move through things. I need to be more connected to something bigger than myself. I need opportunities and ways to practice my wording, how I'm communicating. I need someone to be honest with me when I might be sitting in victim mode, you know? And so we go deep. I'm there to support you. I'm your biggest cheerleader, but I will not be the person who's like, yay, you're doing everything perfect. I'm going to come and bring those shadows to you in a very compassionate way. But so we've got 2 of these calls a month. And in between, you've got access to me through Voxer. I've got office hours, but you can literally do whatever you need to get it up and out of your body, to just voice dump me, whatever is on your heart, the whole week through, right? And then I also start with a breathwork session and we end with a breathwork session to kind of open up and move whatever's been suppressed, and then to kind of seal in all of this new energy that you've cultivated at the end of the 6 months. So it's really, really powerful work. I have had some incredible patients make some incredible, incredible breakthroughs. Actually, the one I'm most proud of, she just finished with me and we're about to go into a new phase of working together. But when she started with me, she was about to give birth. She has already had 3 kids. She had the most connected, most incredible birthing experience with this child. This baby has been like the angel, the godsend, you know, that just really soothes her. Her first child, she actually had lost all communication with him over the past 3 years. And they have now opened up communication. She's been showing up for him. She's really taken responsibility for where she let things fall and slip. And she's been getting out of some of these like mindset things that have been blocking her. She has completely shifted her community and how she was, because she was very much in this mindset of like, she was raised in this area from birth and she had to go to the same person here, the same hairdresser here, but nothing lit her up. And so we completely uprooted her day-to-day routine. And she is so incredibly vibrant now. She has life back in her. She's been making new friends and she's having deeper conversations, and just everything has become so much more inspired, where her and her husband are actually starting to really make some inspired shifts within their own business, because they're business owners as well. So I have been so proud of just 6 months. 6 months, she gave birth and had the best birth experience ever, reconnected with her son that she hasn't talked to in 2 years, has had an incredible experience with her business, and then met a whole bunch of new friends because she decided to take responsibility and really change the trajectory of her life, right? But
Yeah.
she didn't know.
So total shift in energy, right?
Yeah.
Which is like,
Right.
you being the energy mentor is like, you can see where all of this all fits together and kind of guide people through that process. So yeah,
And I'm a
very
projector in
cool.
human design. So like that's literally my makeup, is I can see where you're about to go and I can see the steps in between, and I get to offer that up to you. But it's up to you to be able to empower yourself to actually make the shifts, right? I can tell you, you can take option A or you can take option B. If you take option A, this is what it gets to look like. This is how it gets to feel. But you have to actually say, I'm going to take option A and do it. So
Right.
it's a very cool experience. And like I said, all of my clients have had incredible, incredible results afterwards and just are really making waves in the world. And I'm so proud of them.
Oh, I love that. So for people to find out more about your programs, tell us your website and your social handles and everywhere that people can find you.
So my new home base on the website is visionaryexperiences.com. I am so proud that it literally walks you through all of my services, how to get signed up, you know, all of the things. And it actually goes in depth on Kambo as well. There's a whole specific page that I am so proud of that is specific to Kambo. So if anybody's curious on that. And then Instagram's kind of where I really hang out. So I'm Visionary Experiences on Instagram and also on Facebook as well. So I've been starting to tap in. I was a little slow moving on Facebook with that, but I'm starting to actually move everything in both places now. So
Yeah, I hear you. It's like a whole beast to like make sure it's posted in all the places where everyone can find it. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Awesome. This has been such a treat to have you on today. Thank you so much for sharing all the education that you gave, all the insight, and just the amount of support and encouragement that you're giving to all the moms who are listening to this right now. I know that there's so many hearts out there that are already healing just by hearing this conversation. So I'm so glad that you came on with us today.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm so serious. This community is something incredible and it's so needed. So thank you for doing that and making this the step to create this.
Yay. Thank you. All right. Well, I will talk to you soon. And for everybody else, have the best week out there. You moms are amazing, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.